What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about another 2023 release, and this was a relatively limited release. I believe Mubi is heavily advertising this movie right now. This is a British film, and it's a movie that I read the plot description for, and it sounded very interesting. I read some really good reviews about it before I watched the movie, and the film I'm going to be discussing with you today is How to Have Sex. How to Have Sex is directed by Molly Manning Walker. Three British teenage girls go on a rites of passage holiday, drinking, clubbing, and hooking up in what should be the best summer of their lives. So I read some initial reviews for this movie, and I was very excited to go in and watch it, and I thought this movie was fantastic. It is a very difficult watch. It's a very hard-hitting watch, but it's really impressive what the director is able to pull off, not only with the performances that they get out of their actors, but just what idea this movie is exploring. And it's very simple, it's very slice of life, but it's executed in a way that I think is very effective, and I'm excited to tell you about the movie today. So at the beginning of the film, we're introduced to Tara, played by Mia McKenna-Bruce, and her friends are going on vacation together, and they're traveling. It's the end of the semester, and we get through text messages with, I believe, her mom at the beginning of the film, that she's struggling in school with her grades, and she's uncertain as to how school is going to play out. And they get to this hotel together, and they just want to have fun. It's really the beginning of the movie is these three girls going on this vacation together, going swimming, going to get food, and they're just trying to have a good time. Well, shortly after, sex starts to become a big part of the conversation, where everyone is interested who's going to hook up with this person, who's going to hook up with that person. And the entire movie is they're introduced to this large group of people. They start spending time with these people. There's a couple of guys in the group who take an interest in the girls very quickly. And the film becomes a story of sexual experience and sexual trauma, living through sexual trauma, how you are perceived by outsiders if you have experienced sexual trauma or assault. And the movie is really an examination into our lead character, Tara, and the things that she has to experience throughout this film. So as I said, I thought this movie was fantastic, even though it is an incredibly difficult watch. For starters, I want to talk about the performances. Everyone in this film is fantastic, but Tara, played by Mia McKenna-Bruce, is the standout in this movie. Her performance is exceptional. The amount of things that her character has to experience in this film that are traumatic and heartbreaking and gut-wrenching, she does such an amazing job at really commanding the screen, and you can really feel her pain and the things that she's going through. There's a scene in particular where something horrible happens to her, and she has to go in and see her friends shortly after this has occurred, and her face is completely somber. She's just living in this thing that she's experienced, and as soon as her friends acknowledge her, she puts on a fake smile and acts like nothing ever happened. And I think that's so indicative of what so many people in their teen years experience, where if you suffer through some form of trauma or you experience something, that there's this fear of how you will be perceived later on by your friend group and how they will look at you. And it was heartbreaking through our incredible lead performance to see the things that she experienced. And there's just so much realism in the set of circumstances that occur throughout this film. I thought the cinematography in this movie was fantastic. There's one scene in particular where she's walking back after this really horrible thing has happened to her, and the vacation town is abandoned and there's trash all over the ground. It almost looks like a zombie apocalypse or something has happened. It looks post-apocalyptic, and it really just accompanies that feeling of just dread and emptiness and isolation. And I think the director did a phenomenal job at making the space complement the feelings that our character is having. And it really takes an impressive director to be able to do that in a film, to really have the setting complement the overall mood. Big part about this film that really, I think, hits home the most is, like I said, with our lead character, the entire film is centered around sexual experience and sexual experiences in your teen years or early college years, and how many women are coerced into sex when they're not necessarily ready, or assaulted or taken advantage of, and how that's reflected through their friend groups. And are they willing to trust their friends? They're worried that they're going to be seen as a different type of person if they admit to some level of assault or something that they've experienced. And there's so many women in this world, especially since the Me Too movement has started, that have come out and shared their experiences and their traumas that they've experienced. And it was really hard hitting to watch this lead character go through such a terrible experience and then feel like she's unable to share that experience with the people around her for fear of how she will be perceived. And I think so much of that is correlated to how women are viewed when it comes to sex. So many women are shamed for appreciating sex or enjoying sex and being comfortable in their sexuality. And it's really a problem in our country. I mean, we're even in a society now that I feel like sex work on the surface is more openly accepted, with websites like OnlyFans and things that exist where people do sex work to make money. And you think that in a more progressive society that you would see some level of shift when it comes to how sex is perceived for women comparatively to men, because in this movie, the male characters, they're very overtly sexual. They're not afraid to express their interest in sexuality. And when it comes to the side of the women, it's the complete opposite. There's kind of this timidness surrounding the situation. And will you be perceived as a whore? Will you be treated differently? And it's really a shame that women for years and years and years have had to experience that solely because we live in a male-dominated society that men can just essentially get away with anything. And I think that this movie does such a brilliant job at bringing all of that to the forefront and really leaving that conversation in your head of like, hey, a lot of women experience this. A lot of young girls and young adolescents experience this, where they're sort of forced to confront these really awful circumstances. And so many women are taken advantage of, are treated as like they're nothing more than a sexual object. And so much of that hit hard in this movie when I was watching it. And I think the director does a brilliant job conveying it. And there are so many young adults and adults alike that I think could really benefit from watching a movie like this. Most of the sequences outside of the really hard-hitting dramatic moments are just friends hanging out. They're drinking, they're getting food together, they're experiencing life together. And I think that that's really true of how these circumstances play out. People are just living their lives and these types of things happen, and they have to cope with it amidst, like in this situation, being on a vacation away from school, trying to get your mind off things that are really heavy in that moment. And I think that the contrast of that, oh, I'm so excited to be on vacation, I'm so excited to be in the world, compared to the real horrors that the film kind of faces head on, was brilliant. And I loved the way that it was portrayed. I thought that it was excellently handled, and I would highly recommend checking out this movie whenever you get the opportunity. It is fantastic. So have you seen How to Have Sex? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was fantastic. I thought it was harrowing. I thought it was depressing. I thought it was brilliantly acted, and I hope more people check this out when it becomes more readily available. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.